Description of the activity. The activity that we choose is mopping activity. Mopping activity can be defined as removing or cleaning something from the surface, usually the floor using the mop. This activity is under the instrumental activities of daily living, IADL. IADL can be defined as the activities to support daily life within the home and the community. Mopping activities fall into the home establishment and the management.
Soak the mop in 2 to 3 minutes, then leave the mop and hold it until 2 to 3 seconds above the bucket to let excess liquid fall back into the bucket. Ring the mop with self-squeeze function for effective dehydration by sliding the lever upwards and downwards to squeeze water and dirt out. Place the microfiber mop face down on the floor first and start whipping to the left side. And mop the detailed edges and corners before mopping the open larger areas. And lastly, our fifth step is mopping to the right side with figure 8 motion. And lastly, repeat the process until no areas left behind.
Motion analysis for step 1, dipping mop into cleaning solution. For action, elbow extension, thumb MCP flexion, thumb IP flexion, second to fifth finger MCP flexion, second to fifth finger PIP flexion, second to fifth finger of PIP flexion.
So this is the motion analysis for each step, which is lifting the mop from the cleaning solution. This is for shoulder flexion. For the elbow flexion, for second to fifth finger PIP flexion. And the last one is, this is for second to fifth finger DIP flexion.
Motion analysis for step 3, ring and squeeze the mop from the cleaning solution. The action are shoulder abduction, elbow flexion, elbow extension, ulnar deviation, radial deviation, thumb CMC flexion, thumb interphalangeal flexion, second to fifth finger of MCP flexion, 2 to 5th finger of PIP flexion, and lastly 2 to 5th finger of PIP flexion.
Motion analysis for step 4, run the mop over the floor to the left, upper limb, right side, shoulder abduction, shoulder internal rotation, forearm supination, wrist extension, thumb MCP flexion, thumb IP flexion, second to fifth finger MCP flexion, second to fifth finger PIP flexion, second to fifth finger DIP flexion. For upper limb left side, shoulder abduction, elbow extension, forearm pronation, wrist flexion, thumb MCP flexion, thumb IP flexion, second to fifth finger MCP flexion, second to fifth finger PIP flexion, second to fifth finger DIP flexion. For lower limb left side, hip flexion, knee extension. Lastly, for lower limb right side, hip extension and knee extension.
Motion analysis for step 5, run the mop over the floor to the right. For upper limb right side, shoulder abduction, forearm pronation, wrist flexion, thumb MCP flexion, thumb IP flexion, second to fifth finger MCP flexion, second to fifth finger PIP flexion, second to fifth finger DIP flexion. Next, for upper limb left side, shoulder abduction, shoulder internal rotation, forearm supination, wrist extension, thumb MCP flexion, thumb IP flexion, second to fifth finger MCP flexion, second to fifth finger PIP flexion, second to fifth finger DIP flexion. For lower limb right side, hip flexion, knee extension. Lastly, for lower limb left side, hip extension, knee extension. Firstly, carpal tunnel syndrome. Pressure and constriction of median nerve caused by repetitive actions of the wrist. People with this condition will feel ache or pain in fingers, hand or arm, numb hands, tingling, or pins and needles. It is hard to complete this activity as these tasks require repetitive movement. Knee osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis causes the cartilage in the knee joint to thin and the surfaces of the joint to become ruffled, which means that the knee doesn't move as smoothly as it should, and it might feel painful and stiff. People with this condition will feel painful and stiff when they move the knee. The knee might look swollen, and the pain can be felt all around the knee or just in a certain place such as the front and sides. It is difficult to perform this activity as they might feel worse after moving their knee, or they cannot move their knee as easily or as far as normal, or it might creak or crunch as they move it.
Rheumatoid arthritis. It is a chronic inflammatory disorder that can affect more than just your joint. These patients suffer tender, warm, swollen joint stiffness that is usually worse in the morning and after inactivity, fatigue, fever, and loss of appetite. Last condition is tennis elbow. It's defined as overuse injury and muscle strain injury due to repetitive movement of forearm muscle, hand, and wrist. It causes pain, tenderness, swelling, bruising around the joint. Hand grip and lifting object can be affected.
Wrist fracture. Patient with wrist fracture has carpal bones fracture that will affect wrist movement, and this activity requires repetitive and complex wrist movement. The fracture that could be for wrist are intra-articular fracture, extra-articular fracture, open fracture, and comminuted fracture. Patient may face difficulty to implement this activity because of pain, muscle weakness, bone union period, swelling, bruising, numbness, and tenderness.